In wrestling, opponents have to be on the same page in order to complete a match. But despite this, miscommunication can lead to wrestlers actually getting angry with one another in the ring. This can result from real life bad blood or involve physical receipts being dished out in the match. A traditional receipt occurs when a wrestler accidentally cracks his opponent stiff in the jaw, to which they can then expect something hard to come right back. In this video, we look back to these times where specific wrestlers gave out a receipt during their matches. Brock Lesnar was never shy in the ring, and if you stiffed him in the ring, he would let you know about it. One occasion was at the 2018 Royal Rumble, where he dished out a receipt to Braun Strowman after he kneed Brock hard in the face. Lesnar responded with a solid right hand, while telling the Monster Among Men to slow the fuck down.
Strowman, that clubbing.
Oh, wow.
A knee to the jaw.
Lord.
A knee to the jaw. He caught Lesnar good. A knee to the jaw.
Yeah,
Caught Brock. Brock got him back.
But this wasn't the only time Brock delivered a receipt mid-match. During his bout with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 31, Reigns would deliver some stiff knee shots to Lesnar, which resulted in Brock getting legitimately pissed. He ended up slapping the snot out of Roman for the entire world to see.
Watch this.
Lesnar then followed that up with a ridiculously stiff clothesline, which sent Reigns flying out of the ring.
He got caught. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
From one big man to another, Big Show and Kofi Kingston locked up in 2009, and Kofi hit a jump kick to the jaw of the Big Show, which he didn't appreciate at all.
You know, in our business, this thing called a receipt. You bought that kick, let me give you the receipt with it.
Yeah.
Big Show kept that in mind for later in the match, where he would deliver a thunderous slap to Kofi's chest on the announce table. As the King would say, it sounded like a gunshot.
I think his chest just caved in. Sounded like a gunshot.
Kofi later joked in his podcast that this slap is the reason why his chest is now looking sunken in.
It's what buyer's remorse, right? You know what I'm saying? I look in the mirror. Don't let me pass this sternum on to the kids.
In perhaps one of the most shocking receipts witnessed in a match, Perry Saturn had his way with jobber Mike Bell during a match recorded for WWF Metal in May 2001. Saturn would say that he freaked out after being dropped on his head twice by Bell, and thus began laying into the enhancement talent for real. When Saturn returned to the locker room, he was greeted by Vince McMahon, who wanted an explanation as to what had happened out there. Saturn apologized and then checked to see if Bell was okay.
Beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Threw him outside the ring. He landed with, on his head on the concrete floor. And then Perry jacked him up and rammed him into the steps backward. The back of his head hit the steps. He beat the crap out of the guy.
This likely resulted in him getting his mop gimmick as a punishment shortly after. While Saturn took teaching his opponent a lesson to the extreme, Diesel would get his message across at the 1994 Royal Rumble with some good old-fashioned live rounds delivered to the face of Virgil. Diesel would say that Virgil was supposed to come in, take a few hits and quickly get eliminated, but instead he stayed in the match despite Diesel telling him he had to go. Virgil then angered Diesel by legit hitting him in the face, to which Big Daddy Cool responded with a barrage of stiff elbows before finally dunking Virgil out. During a brawl inside a densely filled ring at ECW One Night Stand in 2005, JBL legitimately laid a beating on the Blue Meanie, leaving his face bloodied in the aftermath. Word had gotten out to JBL that in the years prior, the Blue Meanie mentioned he was a bully. This obviously lit a fire in Bradshaw's eyes, and when it came time to brawl at the end of the pay-per-view, JBL took this as an opportunity to pay him back. However, months later, in a match where JBL faced off against the Blue Meanie, Meanie picked up the victory via help from Batista. But before the pin, it was Blue Meanie's partner in crime with the BWO, Stevie Richards, making headlines, delivering one of the hardest to watch chair shots to JBL's head. It was a shot thrown so hard you could see the pure anger behind it. Stevie was sticking up for his friend here by delivering a well-deserved receipt to the bully. Speaking of chair shots, Undertaker would love giving a receipt back with a stiff chair shot. In 1997, as guest referee at SummerSlam, Shawn Michaels would clock the dead man with a chair at the end of the match, where he would reluctantly give Bret the win and he and Taker would enter their own program. However, Michaels realized that the blow was too forceful. And to end their Hell in a Cell match, he accepted a chair shot of his own from the dead man as his personal receipt that really rung his bell. In 2005, Randy Orton ended up rocking Taker with a chair where he mistakenly caught the Phenom with the lip of the chair, which ended up causing a huge gash. Undertaker told him backstage that his receipt would be coming.
He just looks at me. Don't worry, kid. Your receipt's coming.
It wasn't until months later, at Armageddon 2005, where the dead man got his revenge, and he delivered a thunderous chair shot to the head of Randy Orton.
But he's in trouble! Payback! Oh, God almighty.
In another incident with Taker, Shane McMahon ended up stiffing Taker with a monitor on a Raw before the WrestleMania match that caused him to get busted open. Backstage, Undertaker let Shane know that his receipt was going to come later.
All right, it'll come later. And boy, did it ever.
Fast forward to WrestleMania 32, Shane got his comeuppance, as Taker would bear paw him with a monitor of his own on the outside of the ring.
Up and bear paws me. Whack! Wide open jaw. Oh my gosh.
Sticking with Shane McMahon, it's well known that his punches can look awful at times. But with the adrenaline pumping, he throws rapid combos, and when he doesn't miss completely, he lands them on his opponents flush in the face. One time he did this in particular was at Survivor Series 2016, where he blasted Chris Jericho clean in the face. The punch didn't look great, but caught Jericho on the nose, who took a powder and kicked the steel steps in an attempt to alleviate his frustrations. Shane was even more clumsy when Jericho re-entered the ring, which justified his response.
Dude, I jumped up and gave him like a Jean-Claude Van Damme double kick. I'm like, calm the fuck down.
Booker T appeared on the Steve Austin show and recollected that he received a well-deserved boot to the nose courtesy of Stone Cold. During the conversation, the former world champions talked about Booker accidentally tuning Steve during a match. Steve divulged that he's usually patient about doing out receipts for stiff shots, but the Rattlesnake could not wait to strike back.
The receipt I remember getting back was a stomp right to the face when I was laying down on the ground. And it was a stiff shot right to the nose. I felt like I deserved that.
In 1997, Ken Shamrock developed into a good wrestler by the standards of the time. He was notably stiff in the ring, and he and Vader would always have some brutal matches. However, on one occasion, at In Your House, A Cold Day in Hell, he may have gone a bit too far for the big man's liking. Familiar with the work-shoot genre only, and not the less intensive in-house style, he battered Vader with a series of strikes that didn't look great, but seemed really painful. Vader was seen on the outside telling Shamrock to ease up. But Shamrock was so eager that at one point, he left his feet while striking and went on to break the Mastodon's nose.
Shamrock broke my nose. Instead of kicking me here in the cheek, instead of leading my cheek in, he was turning my nose. He was reverting back to the shoot. And he stuck his knee right in my nose, and it virtually broke my nose.
In response, Vader issued a receipt in the form of a clubbing forearm right in the ear. Vader knocked him clean off his feet. Shamrock actually denied that this was a receipt on the Kurt Angle podcast.
Hearing afterwards how people were talking about how Vader laid me out, I'm thinking to myself, what match are they watching? I mean, like, he threw a punch at me, I rolled with the punch, and I went down to sell it.
Whether you believe that this was a receipt or not, I'll leave that up to you. Our final moment comes from the 2005 Royal Rumble. Daniel Puder was a 2004 Tough Enough winner, and part of his rise to victory came on an episode of SmackDown where he challenged Kurt Angle to an amateur-style match. Putting his MMA experience to use, Puder caught Angle in a key lock, a hold that would have broken the former WWE champion's arm if referee Jimmy Kuderas hadn't fast-counted Puder's shoulders to the mat. Appearing in the 2005 Royal Rumble, Puder was subjected to very stiff shots from Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero and Hardcore Holly, humiliating him in front of a worldwide audience before his elimination.
JR, I think that one knocked his areola.
I had no clue what they were going to do. They treated me like crap and very disrespectful.
But there you have it, folks, a selection of some of the most famous WWE receipts. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you fancy watching some legitimately planned bumps, check out our video on WWE Superstar's signature rope and turnbuckle bumps. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.